This is a re-upload of a video that got pulled down a while ago. I've had about 5 or 6 videos pulled down for various reasons. This is really the only one I've wanted to get back up. It's quite different from anything else on the channel, and while it's obviously not comprehensive, it gives a reasonable overview of the region. I was always hoping to upload this and finish the series in the lead up to a Khabib-McGregor rematch, but that's starting to look like it might never come to fruition. Khabib was recently saying he wouldn't coach the Ultimate Fighter opposite Conor for $5 billion, and I don't think they'll go to 6. I'm pretty sure 5 is their limit. Dana promised Khabib something special if he beats Gaethje, and if that something special was a season of the Ultimate Fighter opposite McGregor, then I think Khabib might have something special lined up for Dana, in the form of a boot in the ass. There has been some speculation about GSP. GSP commented himself and seemed somewhat receptive.
Yeah, I believe Khabib right now is the best guy right now. He's undefeated. Nobody have beat him. He has this aura of invincibility. Scariest thing for a fighter, but also the most excited, is to fight someone who seems unbeatable. If I ever consider to come back, that would be the fight.
I think this is possible. It's probably the only thing Khabib would regard as special in terms of matchups.
I really become exciting when I think about George St. Pierre. This is only fight in UFC what makes me, after Gaethje, what makes me very exciting.
At this point, I just don't have any confidence that Conor will be Khabib's next defense if he beats Gaethje, or that the fight will even happen. So since I've recently made videos on both Khabib and Gaethje, I'm not working on anything leading into this fight. I'm sure I'll take a look at things afterwards, but right now I'm working on something else that should be up soon. Anyway, since this is the lead up to a Khabib fight, it's about as good an opportunity as I'm going to get to put this back up. So here it is.
Советские борцы широко. И точность выполнения бросков подворотом.
The emergence of Dagestan as a burgeoning mixed martial arts force to be reckoned with could have been predicted by the country's prominence on the stage of mixed martial arts' most essential discipline. Dagestan and the Caucasus represent the most talent-rich part of the globe for freestyle wrestling. At the 2016 Rio Olympics, Russia won a respectable 3 medals in freestyle. One of those medals was won by a Dagestani, the consensus pound-for-pound best freestyle wrestler in the world. Took Olympic gold in the 87-kilo category. 1 out of 3 ain't bad for a country of only 3 million. But Dagestani-born wrestlers actually took home a total of 5 Olympic medals, representing Russia, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Belarus, and Romania. The region has such a wealth of wrestling talent, and the competition for spots in the Russian Olympic team so fierce, that many of the world's greatest wrestlers leave their homeland in the hopes of reaching the pinnacle of their sport, albeit under a foreign flag.
First, I did not even think of performing for another country, but everything changed after my jaw was broken and I lost my place on the Russian team. A short while later, I struck a deal with a Turkish club and began to compete there. After I defeated all of my Turkish opponents in the 66K class, they decided that I could perform for the Turkish national team.
And while elite wrestlers leave Dagestan for foreign teams come to Dagestan for elite training.
Au Daghestan pour un mois de stage, parce que le Daghestan en lutte, c'est la meilleure région du monde, que ce soit au MMA ou en lutte libre. On y trouve les meilleurs lutteurs du monde. Rien que dans cette salle, il peut y avoir 20 ou 30 champions du monde, champions d'Europe, que ce soit cadet, junior à senior.
There's a multitude of factors responsible for Dagestan's prominence on the world stage. The most obvious is the country's violent past. As if the rough topography of the region wasn't enough to create a process of natural selection that favors toughness, its geographical location on the edge of numerous sprawling empires has produced a history full of bloodshed that further tilted natural selection in favor of resilience, durability, and a willingness to fight. If you were to compile a list of the most formidable and, let's face it, the most cinematic motherfuckers in history, they've all rolled through the hills of Dagestan. The Huns, the Romans, the Ottoman Empire, Persia, even those ruthless fucking Mongols made an appearance. They all came, they all went, they all fought their fucking asses off in the mountains.
The fortified walls of Narin Kala have witnessed many things. During its 2,000-year history, it repulsed the ancient armies of the Huns, Khazars, Persians, Romans, Arabs, and Mongols. On one side of the fortress, the walls stretched 500 meters into the Caspian Sea. On the other, they stretched 100 kilometers into the mountains. It was as if a huge stone serpent crawled down the mountain and into the sea, and inside of its thick walls, life continued.
Most recently, Dagestan was conquered by the Russian Empire in the 1800s, and the subsequent centuries have largely been colored by their turbulent relationship with the various incarnations of Russia. When Dagestani fighter Azamat Gashimov was asked why so many fighters are pouring out of the region, he referred to the fighting history, and in particular, the Caucasian Wars fought against the Russian Empire, which lasted several decades and consumed well over 100,000 lives. We have been fighting forever. Shamil, the leader of the alliance during the Caucasian War, fought for 35 years against the Russians. They eventually got sick of fighting us, and we made peace. Now they leave us alone. The Caucasus history is a sequence of imperial conquests and violent revolts, a history that has left Dagestan a collection of over 30 different ethnic groups, each with its own distinct language. Now, this is not just a different dialects type scenario. In some cases, we're literally talking about not being able to understand the motherfucker in the next field. The preservation of these unique cultures has been aided by the rough mountainous terrain. Dagestan literally means land of mountains, and the inaccessibility of that terrain prevented the homogenization of culture and language. Unique traditions preserved in remote, inaccessible mountain villages, preserved in isolation.
Rope walking is in our blood. It'll be tough for someone from another village to master it. As we say here, if your father's a mason, you can also become a good mason. If your forefathers are rope walkers, then it's in your blood. So if you really want to, you can do it. You're bound to it.
And so beyond invasions from the various empires, when you have that many distinctly different tribes in close proximity, those motherfuckers are gonna fight. It's like sticking 30 different cats in a sack. At worst, there's been low-level battles and raids. At best, the tribes have competed against each other in a traditional form of wrestling, as a matter of pride. These motherfuckers have been rolling around the mud, mashing each other up and bashing each other's brains out for centuries. And it is no coincidence that a region so historically prone to war would produce men uniquely built for battle. As Sergei Ponomarev, as some fucking guy for the New York Times noted, people in the Caucasus Mountains say their heritage inclined them to wrestling. The severe life in mountain villages and historical battles with neighboring tribes formed an ideal of men able to distinguish themselves with physical strength, grit of character, and bravery. And this did not go unnoticed in the Soviet era. As Simon Schuster of Time magazine noted, wrestling prospered in this corner of the Caucasus after the Soviets recognized the pugnacity and brawn of the local men in the 1960s and sent some of the best Soviet wrestlers to the region to create training schools. The result has been an almost freakish crop of Olympic medalists from the area. Dagestan's history seems like an especially brutal series of trials designed to impolitely invite the weak to exit the fucking gene pool. And when you combine it with the relative poverty of the region, it has produced a culture that demands courage. In a pretty blunt fashion, it begins the process of instilling that courage at a young age. We come from a culture of fighting. It's impossible to grow up in Dagestan as a boy and not fight. When I was about 6 years old, my older brother grabbed me and said, "Okay, are you ready to fight?" And then he looked for another 6-year-old boy about my size, put us together, and we fought. You can't say no. If you do that, it would be a disgrace. That quote is from mixed martial artist Jalil Alizanov. And that's not the only quote of this nature I've heard coming out of Dagestan. You can see the clear route, the obvious natural progression that a career in fighting represents. My older brother grabbed me, looked for another 6-year-old boy my size, put us together, and we fought. 20 years later, some MMA promotion grabbed Jalil, looked for another young man his size, put them together, and they fought. Only this time, for a small pile of cash. It's easy to connect the dots from their early desensitization of violence here to their eventual monetization of violence here. To summarize this point, in Dagestan you have to fight. Losing is an option, but backing down from a fight is a fucking disgrace. This cultural expectation might explain why Khabib was so stuck on the narrative of the bus attack and so quick to challenge the idea that he backed down.
Чтобы нам разрешили выяснить, кто на самом деле сидит в автобусе, а кто не сидит. И для меня это очень сильно важно было.